Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. My name's Gary Williams and today I have with me, well, she's a critic, broadcaster, author, lecturer, and I think all-round theatre lover, Ruth Leon. Welcome to Cabaret Secrets.
My pleasure, delighted to be here.
We've been chatting to each other on and off for a long time now, but it's the first time I've managed to pin you down for half an hour because you are a busy lady.
I love being busy. The busier I am, somebody once said, I think it was my mother, want something done, ask a busy person.
Yeah, that's true. You just came back from New York, I think, the Cabaret Convention.
Well, it's wonderful. Every year they have a convention of 4 or 5 days in which every singer can come and sing 2 songs. Now, this is everybody from the top liners at the big clubs to a cocktail waitress whose first gig this is. And nobody gets preferential treatment. And they get to get up there and sing 2 songs. That's all. Doesn't matter how big a name they are. Barry Manilow was there last year and he got to sing 2 songs. That was what he got. And so because of my job booking for the Crazy Coqs, I got to hear 60 singers in 4 days.
It's like a perfect showcase for what you do, isn't it?
It's ideal, and although I knew most of those singers, I didn't know all of them. There are always a few surprises. There are always a few singers that you've never heard of who are absolutely brilliant and blow you off your seat. And I found 2 of those. One is a very young girl, and the other is 86.
Both ends of the scale, and they're all on their best behaviour for you because you're there with your sort of shopping list, aren't you? And everybody from New York wants to come over and perform in London and vice versa.
Well, in a way, it's a bit sad, Gary, because it's certainly true that everybody wants to come here and perform in London, but that's largely because the places where they can perform in New York are getting fewer and fewer.
Isn't it a strange phenomenon that it seems to be? I mean, we've been talking for years about this cabaret revival in London, and I'm always a little bit sceptical because over the years, as I'm sure you have, we've seen many places come and go, all the best intentions, but it seems to be happening really, and at the same time, for reasons I do not know, some of the great rooms in New York seem to be closing. It seems to be London's where it's at.
London is where it's at, but on the other hand, I'm afraid that I do know why they're closing. Nobody ever made money out of cabaret. Cabaret is what you do because you love it. You know that. Yeah. People manage to make a living, and some people manage to make a good living out of singing or performing. But nobody ever gets rich doing it, and that's true of the venues as well. Yeah. So a place like the Algonquin Oak Room, which is the iconic cabaret venue going back 40 years, if they use it as a bar, they manage to make a lot of money.
In that same space, that expensive real estate.
It's to do with real estate. So they've closed the Oak Room at the Algonquin and they've made it into a bar for what they call their heavy hitters. The same thing is true of Feinstein's. They've closed it because the real estate is too valuable to use for cabaret. So it's left to those of us who really love it to make it work. And we're blessed in London because, as you say, we have had this mini explosion. The Crazy Coqs has opened, but also there's the Pheasantry on the King's Road. They do something different every night. They give a lot of room for new artists, for artists who want one evening as a cabaret. Then there is the St. James Studio, beautiful room, and they have more capacity than we do. We can only seat 80 people. Well, theoretically, we can only seat 66, but when somebody like you is performing, we can seat 80. And the St. James Studio has more than 100, so that really does help. And also they have a bigger stage.
These practicalities of business, of making money, it is an unfortunate fact of life for all of us that love cabaret, that love to perform, that love to sing, that love to be around that world. It has to work, doesn't it? We have to make money. And one of the things that, when I first came to the Crazy Coqs, and it's here that you're artistic director, I thought I came away, and I'm always thinking about business. My background's really in business, and I came away thinking, I think this place could actually work and be around for longer than 18 months, because you've got a bar in the room. You're selling people drinks as they are enjoying the show, and there's usually a little break. They can buy more drinks, so you're making money there. But you've got this fantastic brasserie just across the corridor, which is obviously going to be, I would assume, is profitable. And there's this wonderful bar where we're sitting now and chatting, beautiful. It's attracting people, whether they like cabaret or not, because it's a separate little place. So the building as a whole seems to be geared up that you're actually giving yourself chances in the cabaret room. It's not, the whole place is not just relying on somewhat self-indulgent cabaret for a privileged few.
Well, I am blessed with the most extraordinary bosses. I work for two men, Chris Corbin and Jeremy King.
They're famous.
They are famous. They're the best restaurateurs in London. They started the Caprice and the Ivy. Then they started the Wolseley and the Delaunay.
I'd have much more money in the bank if they hadn't done any of those things. but and my belly is the living proof.
Yes.
So they know what they're doing, don't they?
And because they know what they're doing, they know that if there is money to be made, it's going to be made in their restaurants. So when they asked me if I would come and run the Crazy Coqs for them, I said, don't be silly, there's no money to be made here. You do understand that, don't you? And Jeremy King said to me, that's not my priority. My priority is to have some fun. My priority is to create a buzz in my cabaret where the best people will come and sing, the best people will perform, and everybody who comes through the building will enjoy them. And I said, yeah, I can do that for you. I'm not sure I can make you money. And the truth is, we're full. We're full all the time. We're full for nearly all the artists that we book. That means that although we don't have very many seats, we only have theoretically 66, we're full for, I would say, 90% of the time.
A lot of the trick is obviously in booking the right people at the right time, which is what you're here for. That's your job. Is it tricky to find enough of the right people, or are there hundreds to choose from, and the problem is when to book them?
The answer to both questions is yes. Yes, it's tricky to find the right people, and there is actually an enormous waiting list. There's a huge number of people who are really good. I don't want the ones who are really good. I want the ones who are the best. And so I turn down a lot of really good people.
Because we've only got 52 weeks in a year, right? That's your limit. You can't make any more space. And when you're over with your shopping list in New York as well as in London, people are coming literally from all over the world to perform here. You've got a large pool of talent to choose from.
I have a huge pool of talent to choose from, and I have half men, half women, half
you do? You try and divide it like that?
No, it was an accident.
Really? That's interesting.
The first year that we were open here, from last October until this October, I simply booked the best people I could find. And everybody who I really wanted to come came. So I didn't ask myself what category they belonged to. Some are jazz singers. Some are show singers, some are pop singers, some are men, some are women, some are Americans, some are Brits. And when I made the analysis at the end of the year, I discovered that we had a perfect balance. We actually had half and half white, half black, half men, half women. And I promise you, it was not deliberate.
If somebody, as I know many people, will be listening to this thinking, well, I'd like to perform at the Crazy Coqs. I know there are opportunities on open mic nights, and you have Monday nights, I think, that are open for people. But if they want to do anything here, what just tell us, right to the horse's mouth, what is it that they should do? How should they get hold of you? What should they send you? Do you like to be bothered and pestered? I mean, do you like people to sort of keep contacting you, or what?
It's very hard to get booked here. It's really, really
I hope you're following this with an however. Give us some hope.
However, part of what makes it hard is that when somebody comes here and is really successful like you, I want them back. And so that rather cuts in half the number of new slots there are.
Right.
Because in order to have you and Steve Ross and Katie Sullivan and the people who sell the place out, I have not to have some new singers whom I perhaps would like to try out. And so I come every week to the open mic. That's really the best route.
This is Thursdays.
Somebody wants my attention, come Thursday night at 10:30 and sing for me.
That is a great, that's it, isn't it? They can just come along and they don't have to worry about emails or show reels or anything. It's just they can just come along and show you what they can do.
And then, if they're really good, I'll book them for a Monday night. I've already booked 5 singers whom I had never heard or heard of before until I heard them on open mic night, and I booked them for a Monday night.
This itself is quite remote. It's I mean, I'm excited for people just for this opportunity, really, because I speak to a lot of people that are trying desperately to get work in place. This is one of the best cabaret rooms, and it's actually one of the easiest, from this route that you're explaining now, one of the easiest ways for anybody to get booked, because they come along, if they deliver on the night, it's great for you, you can see what they do, you can meet them and get a feel for what they're like as a person, and then if they prove themselves, then they can do the Monday night, and presumably if they do well, they're doing a whole show and they bring a nice crowd along, then they're in with a chance to do a whole week here.
Well, the next step is a split week. I book some people for 2 nights and some people for 3 nights.
I didn't know you did that. Is that a new thing?
It's fairly new, yes. It's not exactly an experiment. We started doing it at the end of the year and then realized that it was really successful because some people know that they can bring in an audience for 2 nights but would be really struggling for 5. And I understand that. So there is always a possibility that if they come to open mic, they'll get a Monday. And if they do really well on Monday, they might get a Friday and Saturday. And if they do really well there, then they might get a week. But that's much harder, Gary. I say over and over and over again to singers who come on Thursday night, you're good. You're not ready. You're not ready for a room like this. We're a very sophisticated, elegant room. The people who come here, the customers, are knowledgeable about cabaret, they're knowledgeable about repertoire, they know about singing. It's so much more than standing up there and singing a song. You can stand up there and sing a song beautifully, but unless you have a show, unless you can put the songs together in the right order. If I tell you that on Thursday night we sell your book, we tell everybody about your book and we sell your book. Because over and over again, over and over again, I see shows, no, not in my own room, but I go and see people all over the country, and as I say, in the United States, and they have a lot of songs, and they can sing them, but they don't have a show. They don't have a way of getting from the first song to the last song. They don't have anything that they want to tell the audience and that they want the audience to hear.
So it's having a message, something to say, and a journey that the performer takes the audience on.
The violinist Isaac Stern once said to me, "A star is somebody who says to you with his whole body, 'Listen to me, I have something to say.'" Now, he was talking about instrumentalists, violinists, pianists, but in fact he was talking about all performers. I have something to say.
All artists, in fact, whether a painter or anybody that's creating something.
Yes.
And
if you don't, you might as well be painting by numbers.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Or the musical equivalent of that. And it's hard though, isn't it? Because each set is maybe 45, 50 minutes long. It's a big ask of people to be able to stand there and command the attention of an audience who've maybe had a few drinks by the end of the evening, and it takes quite something to structure. It's tricky, isn't it, to structure the set in such a way that you keep surprising them and keep holding their attention and challenging them, but amusing them and not losing them.
Well, that's why I say to so many, you're a singer, you're good, but you're not ready. Go and sing wherever you have the opportunity. In the pub, in the working man's club, down the street, in the lobby of your block of flats. Sing anywhere you can and listen to what the audience is telling you. Listen to how they react to you. Listen to which songs make them sit up and listen. Watch them. When are they ordering another drink? When they're ordering another drink, don't bother. Cut that song out of your repertoire.
Oh, God, the next time I'm going to be looking when people order drinks when it's going to really put me off now.
Have to believe... Well, you're not going to worry about this, but for a new singer, a young singer, we have one terrific guy who comes every week to the open mic. And he's an engineer. He's quite high up in an engineering firm. And about a year ago, he decided he wanted to sing. He'd always wanted to sing, and he was going to sing. And he went to drama school, and he learned to sing. And he comes every week, and every week he gets better. And I can hear him getting better.
What a thrill for you to see that.
It is a thrill, and he was recently offered work singing. And I've watched him do that. And this is the advice that I always gave to him and to all the others. Sing everywhere. You know why? Because as a writer, that was the advice that I was given. I said, how do I become a writer? And my friend, the novelist, said to me, you write every day. You write no matter how you're feeling. You write no matter whether there is inspiration or not. You write every day, and one day somebody is going to want to read what you've written. The same thing is true of singers. Sing every day. Sing everywhere. No, not in a place like Crazy Coqs. It's too exposed. You cannot learn your craft as a singer in a place like Crazy Coqs, because everybody there knows what you're doing.
And if you don't do it right, you're not going to get another chance for a while, right? So spend some time developing your skills and your expertise, your craft, so that when you're ready, you'll come to the Crazy Coqs.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can use you as an example. They just love you. The audiences just love you. And why do they love you? Because you talk to them as though you were in their living room. Shall we do this? Shall I sing that? What do you think? Shall we sing that song? And there is a sense that they are participating in your show. And that's the essence of cabaret. Cabaret is a conversation between the artist and every member of the audience. And unless you can connect with every member of the audience, doesn't matter how well you sing. It doesn't matter how... I saw a show the other evening, a young man, beautiful voice, but he looked over my head while he was singing and when he was talking, and I kept wanting to stand up in my seat and say, I'm over here.
Yes.
You can talk to me, I'm here.
Yes.
And so it's hugely important that conversation, that dialogue between the performer and the audience takes place very quickly after you get up there on the stage.
And then also that it's a very real thing, and that it's not just a matter of going through the motions and doing your script, that you are opening yourself up to the opportunity for a real response, that you're actually encouraging and wanting a real response, even if that's a tacit response from the audience, but that there's some kind of flow there, something that we're creating, and trying to create an evening where the audience feel as though that night was a unique night just for them, and it's much more interesting for us as performers if it actually is like that.
Sure, it's much more interesting for us too. If you're in an audience, and I spend most of my life in an audience, if you're in an audience and the artist isn't talking to you, and I don't mean talking, I mean communicating with you, whether in words or in lyrics or just with a glance or a laugh or a moment, then you might as well be home listening to a record. If he or she is actually part of your life and you are part of his or hers, then you don't want to be anywhere else in the world. It's I wrote a book about this. It's what I call the Me Too factor. When you're singing a song, I want to be able to say, oh yes, Gary, me too. I want that lyric to speak to me as though it were written for me. And when you see that, I write a lot about musical theatre, and you very rarely share the specific experience of the musical that you're watching. For example, thank God nobody will ever again have the experience of living in a rural shtetl in Eastern Europe in 1905. But Fiddler on the Roof is universal. And when they sing about leaving this town, this horrible little town, which is nonetheless the only place they know, and all the people in it are the only people they know, and when they sing about their pain at leaving that town, you, as the audience, feel, oh yes, me too. I know what it feels like to leave something or somewhere or someone that I really care about.
I love that Me Too factor. I've never heard that before. It's a very nice way of putting it. Alan Bennett, I can't remember the exact quote, but there's a wonderful quote of his from the History Boys where he says it's the greatest gift is when you're reading a book and you feel as though the author has just reached out from the pages and written something especially just for you. And same thing, you read it and you think, oh, me too. I'm actually getting goosebumpy just saying this, do you know? Because, and I really feel it. And they are, I call them magic moments in the show when you feel that there's a real connection with everybody. It's a special thing, and it seems, of course, as we've said, it's in musical theatre shows or opera or plays. And I know you love all of those art forms.
I do.
But it seems that cabaret is uniquely placed amongst them for this kind of rapport.
It's the intimacy of cabaret is unique. There is no other art form where you're that close to your audience, where you can see them and they can see you equally clearly. There is, if your audience is bored, you're going to know it within seconds of starting that song. And you know, take off all your clothes or jump on a table or do
something about it. Yeah.
Do something. No, it's
which actually, interestingly, we can as cabaret performers because we're not locked in. It's not like we're performing, Fiddler on the Roof or Miss Saigon, or we're in an opera where we're just stuck and set, and we have to hit the light at a certain point, and we, everything. If you're on your own, actually, you can do something. You can turn to the pianist and say, "Forget the next one, skip that. We'll do this instead."
You can, but that's an experience factor. And that's why I tell so many singers, you're good, but you're not ready for Crazy Coqs. Because experience, taking on board how the audience is reacting to you, what you're getting back from them, that's something you can't teach somebody. That's something which you get by doing concert after concert, nightclub after nightclub, evening after evening, and you kind of know, don't you, when they're with you and when they're not.
There seems to be, in some of the art forms we've discussed, elements of snobbery. People saying, well, you don't want to go see that, or so. But you seem to be fairly indiscriminate. I mean, you're very discriminating, but you tend to take everything on its face value and think, well, actually, that was rather fun.
Well, I think probably because I can't tell the difference.
I know that's not true.
I think
you know very much the difference. But it's nice that you have an open mind
I
to
went
things.
last week. I was blessed. I went last week to see the Anthony Minghella production of Madame Butterfly at the Coliseum. And I hadn't been to the opera live for a long time, although when I can, I go to the Met broadcasts in the cinema. And I remembered how much I love opera and how very far it is from the cabaret which fills my days. But there is, again, a Me Too quality. When that poor woman is left all alone with a tiny child for a man who doesn't give a sausage about her, you think of all the times you've been dumped. And you think about how terrible it is to be in her situation with her cultural background and find herself all alone with no options.
It's empathy, isn't it, we feel?
It's art. That's what it is. It's art. And I don't care whether the art comes from a book or it comes from an opera or it comes from a violin. I can be made to cry by almost anything. As long as it's good enough. And I am fussy about I am picky. I want it to be good. And I won't take a child to see something that is less than wonderful. I don't believe in schlepping children along to see the Nutcracker every Christmas. I don't believe in taking children to pantos. I think you take children to the very best. And then you know that art will wash over them, because real art communicates itself, whether it's cabaret or it's jazz or it's opera or it's ballet, doesn't matter at all, but it has to be the best.
Thank you for joining us on Cabaret Secrets. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.